at the Capitol.
There's new information this evening in the case against a Cobb County father accused of murdering his son in a hot car. The attorneys for Ross Harris have filed several motions. One is to separate the charge he intentionally left his son Cooper in a hot vehicle to die from the one accusing him of sending sexually explicit photos to an underage girl. The defense also argues Harris was not read his rights and that any statements made while being questioned by police should be thrown out. And third, attorneys say police eavesdropped on conversations between Ross and his wife Leanna, which should have been private and protected and therefore should be inadmissible in the courtroom. Joining us now to offer insight is longtime attorney in Atlanta here, Pate. Good to have you here.
Great to be here.
Thank you very much. So let's first talk about why defense attorneys are trying to separate the charges that he was intentionally leaving Cooper in that car from the charge of sexting with an underage girl.
Well, obviously the sexting evidence is incredibly damaging. I mean, it's a character assassination on Mr. Harris, and so if you can keep that evidence out of the trial, I think he stands a much better chance of winning on the murder charges.
The defense is arguing that Harris didn't have his Miranda rights read to him.
Right.
Do you think this is a fair argument?
No, ultimately it doesn't matter. The only time someone gets those Miranda rights is if they're in custody, if they've been arrested and then they're interrogated. So if a cop shows up on the scene and you just start talking and answering questions, you don't have to have your rights read to you, and that evidence can be admitted at trial.
And he was being questioned by law enforcement.
That's exactly right. And he was not a suspect at the time, so they didn't take him into custody and they did not Mirandize him.
You said one thing that's interesting about this case is that the state is holding on to some of what you consider key evidence.
That's right, in two regards. First of all, you can see that the lawyers filed a motion to say, give us our family pictures back, the things that show that the father and the son were close. The state's held on to that evidence and hasn't given it up. The other thing is the incriminating evidence, the other evidence that they had, the computer searches, the photographs, all of that needs to be provided to the defense, and so far it hasn't been.
You know, the one other thing we haven't talked about, the conversations between Ross Harris and his wife in the Cobb County Police Department. Right. The defense attorney wants that thrown out.
And I think he has a good argument. If a husband and wife, or say a lawyer and a client, have an expectation of privacy that their communication is not being recorded, then you can't use it. I mean, if you've notified them that, hey, you're in the police station, we're going to record you, that's different. But I don't think that happened in this case.
All right, and looking to Monday, they are due back in the courtroom.
Right, but I'm surprised, or I would be surprised if any hearing actually takes place. Again, the evidence hasn't been exchanged yet. It's early in the case, so it'll likely be continued to another day.
So another delay. Okay.
Right.
Pate, appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Melissa Pate.